I think the first thing that an organization really needs to do in general, but particularly under these time constraints, is to make sure that everybody understands why this is happening. So at the end of the day, this is about execution, right? And so the faster you can get everybody on the same page and connected to the higher purpose, that's going to go a long way toward helping people accelerate what they're willing to change and how they're going to go on the journey. I think organizations need to focus on a few things to get this done, and we can talk about it in a few different levels. First, I think leaders need to create clarity around the complex. I think particularly in a healthcare arena, people go into that because they want to do the right thing, and they want to help people, and they're really there for all the right reasons. So what typically happens over a change is sometimes people go, well, I have to change, that means what I did was wrong or bad. So I think leaders also need to reinforce that, hey, we're doing great things, and we're going to continue to do great things, but now we have to do great things in a different way. I think another thing organizations need to do is make sure that their managers are clear about how to translate the why into what needs to happen day to day when I show up for work for the frontline folks. And so making sure that they can translate that and have the skills to translate that is something that's going to be even more important for organizations. And then I think finally, we need to be sure that they're engaging all the workers on the journey. This is not like, here's the deal, get it done, we're going to make this change tomorrow. Large-scale change and transformation is a journey, and you want to make sure your people are on that with you the entire way. We all know it's reform, we all know there's a law, but how that shows up in the different segments is going to vary, and everybody's going to have a little bit different lens about it. Change for anyone under any circumstances is not the easiest thing to undertake. So I think one of the biggest speed bumps is going to be just people's resistance to change, and frankly, the fear of the unknown. Again, that's human nature, but because there are so many things that are not yet known, and it's going to be a little bit of a moving target, that fear isn't necessarily going to go away. So I think honestly that is a huge potential barrier for organizations. And I think it calls into the need for organizations to be adaptive and flexible. Again, those aren't things that are necessarily organizational DNA, but I think under this circumstance, adaptability and adaptiveness is going to be critical for any organization. So that's one barrier. I think one of the other challenges is there are still unknowns. A lot of people are making this up along the way. There's a 5-year window, until 2017 when everything really needs to be in place. But what happens over those 5 years is going to change. So again, I think that's going to be challenging for everyone and every segment of the industry to keep up with all of that and then be able to communicate that, again, on an ongoing basis throughout an organization to make sure everybody is staying along the journey over the next several years. In the payer-insurer space, one of the examples is they are engaging their entire workforce. Honestly, for the first time in 15 years, they felt this was so important to get the line of sight and everybody on the same page as quickly as possible, so they engaged their workforce. And that was the first thing that they did. They've gone on to understand that they now need to engage their agent community in a little bit different way. They need to engage with consumers in a different way. So they're taking a very holistic view on creating that line of sight. Typically we think about that within an organization. And that's very exciting. We have other organizations that are, again, going back and looking at their quality processes and really making sure that everybody in the organization understands not just, when you push that button, that's really important and the outcome, but what is the risk and the outcome if we are not doing that? So there are a whole lot of really interesting and innovative initiatives going on within that segment as well that we're delighted to be a part of. There are a few things that organizations can do to make this very manageable. I think first and foremost really is to understand this is a transformation. This is a large-scale change process, and so how do they look at it in chunks? and at different levels. You don't have to eat the whole elephant in one bite, right? So I think it's a matter of understanding that you have the clarity within the organization at the leadership level, you understand the complexity, and you understand the direction that the organization is going to go. And then, of course, you need to communicate that to the organization. You can also then ensure there's broad advocacy throughout your organization for the changes taking place so that you can be executing very quickly and moving quite speedily along this journey. I think another thing that organizations can do to make this manageable is to understand where are the skills in the middle of your organization. Do we have the skills not only to do our jobs well, but to bring others on the journey with us and make sure that what they're doing, meaning frontline workers on a day-to-day basis, are connected to the change and the transformation that is going to be taking place over time. And I think if you look at that in total and you understand the different roles that each person in an organization plays and ensure that we're all heading in the same direction at the same time, I think it makes this transformation and change of this magnitude far more manageable and not so scary. And I think honestly, even beyond that, when you can approach transformation and change in that way, it opens up some interesting and potentially exciting possibilities. And if you can get that curve to bend from the, oh, what are we doing, to, wow, this is pretty cool, let's do more of this, then it's an exciting journey for everyone to be on.